I'm Thor. Today, we're talking about the law of conservation of matter. Matter makes up all the visible objects in the universe, and it can't be destroyed or created. I'm Thor. Since the dawn of time, humans have sought to understand their natural world, and what a world it is. We're going to explore it through science, history, language, food, and great stories. Welcome to Thor's Outdoor Science Academy. What we're really talking about is chemistry, and that means we're talking about stuff. Behold my stuff. So the word chemistry, English, alchemista, Latin, chemia, Greek. It's rare, but I actually like the Latin on this one. Chemistry is really the science of matter at the atomic level. The word matter was the original Indo-European word for both mother and matter. And the word matter has its origins in German and Dutch. Mutter, German, Moda, Dutch. In the minds of ancient peoples, mother and matter were the same thing. It gave life to existence, and that was the origin of all things. Ancient peoples were certainly asking the question, what is the nature of matter? By that they meant, what are we made of? What is the world made of? Those are great questions, because if we come to understand the world around us, maybe we will learn to better understand ourselves. A group of ancient peoples from Greece called the Ionians were the first to believe that reason ruled the world. Greece is the modern word for that geographical area today, but back then it was called Ionia. The Ionians thought that even though the world was complex, there had to be some unity that explained everything and that binds us all together. After all, we're all made of the same thing, matter. At the same time the Ionians believed that reason ruled the world, it's safe to say most others believed that there were mysterious, magical forces or crazy gods that really ruled the world. They did not believe that reason ruled the world. The fact that the Ionians thought that we actually might have the power to discover the secrets of the universe, and that knowledge was not exclusively known to only the crazy gods. It was such a huge shift in worldview. Were the Ionians right? Does reason rule the world? Yes. Just look at all this cool stuff we've created by using that worldview. And now we have the periodic table of elements to help us understand what matter the universe is made of. I probably say this a lot, but we have really only discovered so much incredibly important science in just the past few hundred years. The first scientifically discovered element was phosphorus in 1689. And it took another 200 years until enough elements had been discovered that they could be organized in a way that made sense to everyone. It was a Russian chemist named Dmitry Ivanovich Mendeleev who was able to organize the known elements into a system that represented their place in the universe, in a way that made sense to us silly humans. He organized them after he realized that certain types of matter behaved in the same ways and organized them as such. This was only in 1869, and at that time there were only 56 elements known, and new elements were being discovered at a rate of about one a year. We now know of more than 100 elements today. Mendeleev developed the table by putting different types of matter in columns and rows based on their similarities and differences, and hypothesized that the way matter behaves might have something to do with the outside of the atom. Ironically, his hypothesis is now absolutely supported by today's understanding of atomic structure. Amazing what people were able to figure out without electricity or electron microscopes back then. So when you accomplish something that important in science, like organizing the elements, they immortalize you by naming an element after you. Mendelevium. Einstein's got one. Einsteinium, number 99. Marie Curie's got one, number 96. Curium. I didn't even research that. I knew that off the top of my head. Having a periodic table of elements shower curtain for the last 10 years has finally paid off. We also know that these elements are composed of tiny particles called atoms, and that all atoms in an element are the same. We've discovered all the natural elements, but we now have the power to make new elements in a laboratory setting. While it is amazing that we can create new elements, they usually only survive for a split second. Atoms are so ridiculously small. It's really hard for us to imagine. And now we found even more ridiculously smaller things inside of atoms, like quarks and protons and photons. I always thought photons were only in laser beams in Star Trek, or was it Star Wars? One of the stars. Anyway, scientists are still trying to determine if there are even smaller particles. Yup. We know of at least 30 particles, charm, antiquarks, and antineutrinos, and on and on. Why does this all even matter? It matters because we have figured out what stuff is made of. That has allowed us to rearrange the stuff in the stuff to make new stuff. The problem is, how do we rearrange the stuff back to its natural components so the stuff can be recycled? Everything should be recycled. Even jokes. Sure, we didn't have cars and airplanes and computers 400 years ago, but all the raw materials to make those cars, airplanes, and computers were here 400 years ago and are all found in the Earth's crust. We find the stuff, we process the stuff, and then we turn the stuff into everything we have now, which is why it is so important to think of the Earth as a closed system. We do it. A coconut does not fall out of a tree and hit a rock and out pops an iPhone. We do it. Hello? Nope, doesn't work. Again, once we've made all of this stuff, we have to figure out how to unmake all this stuff so that we can make new stuff. Because the Earth is a finite resource, not infinite, and we're not going to find these elements, compounds, and minerals anywhere else, for now. So many times what starts out as science fiction becomes science reality. A lot of sci-fi talks about mining on different planets and asteroids. Remember in Star Wars, they have to mine kyber crystals on various distinct planets in order to make lightsabers? Well, back here in science reality, mining on different asteroids and planets is seriously being talked about for the future. Well, not kyber crystals, but mining real precious minerals and metals from faraway places. Fire. Fire represents chemistry. Fire is the original atomic reorganizer, making fire the original chemical reaction. And remember, a chemical reaction is a rearrangement of elements. Fire has only been harnessed and used by humans. No other living organism on Earth uses fire. But just try to imagine a T-Rex with a torch. Well, it'd be a pretty small torch, or like a squirrel with a lighter. Not good. I think we can safely say that controlled fire was one of the most important things that was ever discovered by humans. Fire is so important for all sorts of reasons. Keeping you warm, providing light at night, cooking food, boiling water to make things safer to eat and drink. There's even an idea that fire helped ancient humans to become more social with one another. Creating a bonfire easily becomes a gathering place for people. And when you throw cooking in the mix, folks are forced to congregate and communicate with each other, which in turn would have helped with the expansion of spoken language. Excuse me, Mr. Caveman, pass the pterodactyl meat, please. You know, something like that, except of course, humans and dinosaurs did not coexist. You can still feel today when you're around a campfire with a bunch of people eating and talking, it just feels right, you know? And speaking of eating, take a look at what happens chemically with fire when you grill a steak and fry potatoes. You know when you see a cooking show, they always say they're gonna sear a steak and lock in the flavors. They are actually talking about the chemical reaction called the Maynard reaction. We have utilized the Maynard reaction for hundreds of thousands of years, maybe over 1 million. We really don't know when humans first started cooking. It depends on which archaeologist you talk to about that. But the Maynard reaction was only first explained in 1912. Louis-Camille Maynard, a French chemist and owner of one of the greatest mustaches of all time, discovered how amino acids react with sugars at high heat and all sorts of food, from baked bread to grilled steak. Maynard set the reaction for food science, but the American chemist from the US Department of Agriculture, John E. Hodge, took the Maynard reaction further by really explaining the reaction as it goes through 3 distinct stages of molecular rearrangement to produce the flavor and smell, browning colors we all know and love. That was just in 1953. The same thing is happening to our French fried potatoes right here in my fry pot. The oil is so hot it causes the Maynard reaction, as you can see with the perfectly golden color, slightly overcooked fries that we see right here. Before we all break for lunch and eat this, let me tell you that yes, fire is fantastic for cooking, but fire has a dark side, kinda like the Jedi Order. Look at all this stuff.
It's a big pile of aluminum. Well, the law of conservation of matter states nothing can be created or destroyed, right? So this stuff is either gonna sit here for a really, really long time, like hundreds of thousands or millions of years, until it eventually recycles itself back naturally into the Earth's crust, or it will go to an aluminum plant and get melted down and repurposed into something else. But again, we're not creating or destroying anything, it's getting recycled. But because we've changed it so much from its original state, how aluminum is found in the Earth's crust, we have to spend a crazy amount of energy to recycle it. We don't inherit the Earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. David Brower said that not too long ago. He is considered by many to be the father of the modern environmental movement. They always talk about the father of whatever movement, but you never hear about the mother. Who is the mother of the modern environmental movement? Her name is Rachel Carson. She was an American marine biologist, conservationist, and author who said in her 1962 groundbreaking book, Silent Spring, for the first time in the history of the world, every human being is now subjected to contact with dangerous chemicals. She was right, of course. Environmentalists are the ones ringing the alarm to the damage being done to our environments. While the past 200 years have brought with it the Industrial Revolution to the Plastics Revolution, which has undoubtedly made our lives much easier, it has also created this disposable culture that we live in today. There is actually something in economics and industrial design called planned obsolescence. Planned obsolescence means that products are intentionally planned and designed with an artificial limited use life. So the product becomes obsolete or out of date after a certain period of time, even though it doesn't have to. They change the design of the product or use materials that they know won't last very long. So you have to buy the newer version of whatever it is. You know when they have advertisements for brand new laundry detergent that say it's way better than the last kind? Did the last kind not clean anything? What was wrong with the old laundry detergent? Interesting factoid, in India they use little disposable clay cups called bahar to drink tea out of. When they are done with it, they toss it on the ground and eventually it turns back into soil. So we talked about planned obsolescence, but there's also something in economics and industrial design called perceived obsolescence. Perceived obsolescence is when a customer is convinced that they need a new updated product, even though the current one is working just fine. Mainly this is based on style, not functionality. This happens a lot in many industries. It certainly happens in the fashion industry, and this is not anything new. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, feather-plumed hats were all the rage in high societies of Europe and America. The demand for bird plumes encouraged people to go out and kill exotic birds for their beautiful plumes to be put on the hats of rich ladies in Paris, London, and New York. This led to the extinction and near extinction of many bird species, a lot of them being found in the swamps of the southeastern United States. And that fashion trend only lasted a few years. So dozens of bird species were endangered in the name of a fashion that didn't even last that long. Why did women stop wearing exotic feather-plumed hats? Because in 1896, two Boston conservationists, Harriet Hemingway and Minna Hall, saw the short-sightedness of this fashion craze and formed a society for the protection of birds. Their activism would culminate in the formation of the National Audubon Society and passage of multiple laws to protect bird species across America. Here's another example of perceived obsolescence. The shoes you bought last year still work great, but they are now out of style, so you have to buy another pair. Who made you believe that? Or your cell phone works fine, but a newer one is coming to market and you just have to have it to be cool. Who made you believe that? Multiply those purchases by the millions and you can see why we have so much stuff that functions just fine but is still garbage anyway. How can we go on this way? What we really need is a shift in the mindset of people. People need to understand that nothing new is being added to the planet, and if we keep taking things and putting them into chemical structures that we can't reuse, like a lot of plastics, then unless we harvest those things and turn them into something else, we're going to run out of stuff and we're going to have the earth cluttered with perfectly working cell phones and one-time worn pairs of shoes. I believe that one of the main reasons to become scientifically literate is to become a better consumer. We're all gonna have to consume at some point. The more you know about the products that you purchase and how they are made, the better decisions you will make about what you purchase. If we consume in a more responsible way, we will force supply to catch up with the new demand of only using reusable stuff. The next revolution has already started, and it is called the reuse revolution. Because we have to stop making products that you replace every so often for no real reason, or we will be swimming in garbage, literally. People are already finding innovative solutions that focus on reusing sustainable materials instead of throwaway plastics. Things like using your own water bottle instead of throwing away water bottles constantly, or bringing your own bag bags to shop for groceries, or bringing your own coffee mug to the coffee shop. All of this behavior is centered around reduction and reuse. Be a part of the reuse revolution. You can improve our planet by deciding what to buy, and that's pretty powerful. See you next time on Thor's Outdoor Science Academy.